American Family Radio.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Where do you live, Brian?
Live right in Central California, a little town called Wilton.
Is that where, do you grow my lettuce and my tomatoes?
There's a lot of that stuff going on around us, yeah.
Well, people don't realize, we think of the breadbasket of America, and it is for certain kinds of
wheat,
produce.
corn.
Yeah, being in Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, that kind of thing.
Right.
But most of your fruits and vegetables come from Central California.
I'm so glad you said fruits and vegetables because I was afraid you were going to say something.
Isn't that right?
That
Brian?
is correct. Yeah, that is correct.
And that Central Valley is just rich, fertile ground for producing those kinds of fruits and vegetables. Well, let's talk about your story. You've got a book called Rescued, which is published by Harvest House,
right.
Subtitled One Family's Miraculous Story of Survival. Where should we begin here, Brian?
Wow. Yeah, there's there's a lot of places to start with this whole thing. I think the biggest thing that I tried to get a story across with the book was our trip was really no different than a lot of people's simple family vacations, that could be only a 3 or 4 hour travel. We just happened to do ours in our private plane. And
when is this? When did this happen? And describe your family.
Oh, it was Memorial Day weekend of 2012.
Okay.
And my family, we were going to visit our oldest daughter that lives in Mountain Home, Idaho. And we were, my wife and my youngest daughter were the ones that were traveling in the airplane that day.
Okay, so there's three of you in the airplane. It's a private plane. Is that your plane, or you rented it, or what?
Yeah, we owned the airplane.
Okay. So how long have you been a pilot?
I've been flying since I was 16 years old. I didn't actually get my license until 2002, but I started flying when I was 16 and just kind of flew off and on up until then.
So you have a lot of hours.
Yeah.
As a private pilot. And basically a single-engine plane or what? Yeah,
it's a single-engine airplane. It was a Cessna 172, which is, so for the pilot community, they'll know what that was. It was a four-seater airplane with a high wing on it.
Brian, I am in no way making light of your situation because we're going to get into the seriousness of your story.
You're thinking of JJ, aren't you?
Well, JJ Jasper on our staff here, he had to land a plane on a highway a few months back because his engine failed. I guess what I'm thinking is, why do you go up in a plane with one engine?
And one pilot.
Because if that one engine fails, it isn't like you're in your car and you can pull over to the side of the road and look under the hood. So I'm not saying that. I know that sounds somewhat humorous to ask that question, but I mean it seriously. Go ahead.
It's a great question. We hear that a lot, and I would really totally disagree. Most planes, especially, and it depends on the type of aircraft, but the plane that I was flying, the one we owned, it actually had a pretty good glide ratio, even with the aircraft motor not running. It would glide down to the ground, and where you could find a safe place to land, just like your statement of being able to pull off to the side of the road for some sort of engine problem or a flat tire. Of course, it's a little bit more complicated, but that's what pilots train to do the whole time they're in their basic training, and it's what we have to do in our biannual flight reviews. It's a constant refresher of how to manage an emergency situation like that. And it sounds like, I believe you said JJ, he did an awesome job. His thing was he had a great runway down there. A freeway's awesome. I didn't have that option.
Right. Yeah, he had a 4-lane highway to land his plane in, and it was at night, almost at night,
almost
wasn't it?
Evening,
dusk, and so he was able to spot the highway. We're talking to Brian Brown from California. He and his wife and their daughter, one of your daughters, right?
Right. Correct.
Had a flight in, would you say Memorial Day?
Memorial Day
2012, and they left California en route to Idaho, and we're about to talk about what happened that day. Their book is called, Brian's book is called Rescued, One Family's Miraculous Story of Survival, and it's published by Harvest House. Okay, so you take off for Idaho. How long a flight were you expecting, and where would your route take you?
Yeah, the flight was about a 3.5-hour flight. We left Lodi, California, is where our plane was hangared, and it was a beautiful day, nice, crisp, clear morning, blue skies, and we were dressed actually, for that climate. So it was we were dressed for pretty much an early summer sort of, climate.
Yeah.
And the flight was supposed to take us pretty much directly over the Sierra Nevadas. And then I had one stop right at Susanville, right at the edge of the Sierra Nevadas where you just start getting into Nevada. And that was supposed to be our fuel stop.
The mountains you're talking
yes.
about?
Yes.
The Sierra Mountains, which is are in California and Nevada.
And butt right up against Nevada, correct.
Okay. So you get up in the air, you've traveled along. What happened?
Yeah, we're making the flight. It's going just as planned. Everything looked good.
What flight? What height are you at?
We're probably right around. I want to say at that point we were right around 9,000 feet.
Okay.
And we got to our fuel stop, so we stopped there at Susanville and got fuel. And while we were there, I'd noticed the weather was actually starting to form and not look so good. So we went back into the office, the flight office, and actually checked weather there, and had noted that the storm that we did know that was going through there had stalled, and so we couldn't continue on at that point, and we waited. We ended up borrowing a rental car, or actually it's a loaner car at an airport, and ended up having lunch there. And our stay had to have been close to 2 to 2.5 hours right there in Susanville. And when we got back, we did another weather check, and the weather was, moving east just like we had originally anticipated. And so in my mind, I thought, perfect. The weather's moving east. We're heading east. We'll just be right behind it, and it'll actually help pull us across. And we took off. We headed back. We had a direct line to Mountain Home from Susanville, and we were about, I want to say we were about 50 minutes, almost an hour from our destination. And I saw that weather had actually looked like it had stalled again. And we proceeded on because I could actually see everything. I had all my visual flight rules and stuff in place. But when I started getting closer, the rain actually was so intense I couldn't see through the windshield. So I immediately turned the aircraft around and selected the 5 closest airports on my GPS. And it took me to Rome, Oregon. And Rome State, Oregon Airport is a gravel strip in the middle of literally nowhere. There's no buildings. There's really nothing out there. No restrooms, nothing. Just a sign that says "Welcome to Rome State Airport."
A gravel?
Yeah, it was gravel, and my understanding it was an old World War II bomber practice strip.
How is that still listed on the FAA's approved airport list?
I have no idea, but it is listed on there. Yeah. It's listed on all the GPS. So it is a usable runway. That's the thing. It is very usable. And it actually was, it was quite sufficient for us getting down safely. Okay.
Well, I'm just thinking, I've seen a gravel road before, and
yeah.
I'm thinking well, maybe you can land an airplane on that, but it just seems like it's risky because your gravel underneath you can move and you just
yeah, exactly. When I landed extremely soft and kept the nose wheel off the ground as long as I could to keep it from like your probably mind is going to keep it from wheelbarreling into the gravel.
So is that where you went? Is that where you brought the plane down? And is that what happened?
Yeah, we stayed there actually. And our plans at that point, we'd called our oldest daughter and said we're probably not going to be able to make it today.
Oh, so you landed the plane and you're safe there in Rome, Oregon.
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, and so we we had called our oldest daughter and told her what our plans were at that point, and I had actually said we're probably going to end up spending the night in the airplane, which wasn't a real popular decision in the aircraft, but I think everybody knew. I mean, that was our option at that point. I certainly couldn't fly in the weather.
But there's nobody out there. There's no building. There's no hotel. There's no rental car. What choices did you really have?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
We were going to have to spend the night in the aircraft.
Talking to Brian Brown from California. Brian and his family went down in a plane crash, which we're going to talk about, single-engine plane crash, which we're going to talk about. He hasn't got to that yet. The book is called Rescued by Brian Brown with Aline Chambers, and the subtitle is One Family's Miraculous Story of Survival.